So we'll begin with 6.6 Bhagavad Gita. So will you read it? Bandhuratma.
बन्धुरात्मा आत्मनस्तस्य येन आत्मा एव आत्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेत आत्मैव शत्रुवत्.
So it says one's own self is the friend of the self, by whom the lower self, consisting of the mind and body, has been conquered. Even so, the very self of him who has not conquered his lower self behaves antagonistically like an enemy. So we will not go by the literal English translation, but we'll just go by that we are our best friend and we are our worst. Now, how can we become our best friend? We can become our best friend by giving up the ego, by giving up the I sense that I am separate from the real. When I bring in that humility, I become my friend. When I ascribe things to God, then I become my friend. Then it is in a way I have conquered myself, conquered my lower self, as this translation is saying. But the point is that I am part of the whole. If I bring that idea in my mind, if I bring that humility in my mind, then I've achieved quite a bit. So, and also it means that I am best friend. I have to do this myself. Nobody else is going to do it for me. This work at self-development, the word self is repeated again and again. So I have to do it myself. I have to become my own friend. If I don't become my own friend, then I'm worse than an enemy. And how is it that I can become my own friend? So I can use various techniques. I can have a group of good friends. I can read good literature. I can think of good things. I can continuously train my mind to receive good things or to speak things or to do good things. And in that way, I become my best friend. So any questions, any thoughts on this?
Ashaben, this Shatruvat.
Shatruvat.
It's like Shatruvat.
Yeah. So how I become like my enemy?
Yes.
Is that the question? So when I am, the word he says is anatmanasu. So then I am not with myself. I'm not with myself. I'm too externalized. When I'm too externalized, I become my enemy. That is what it means. When I'm with myself is real, pure. And actually also, if you just see in your situations, if you sit with yourself, if you are sad, if you are confused, if you don't know what to do, and if you have all kind of wrong thoughts, you have to sit with yourself. And if you can't handle it, then you have to take guidance from somebody who is sensible, who is with himself. Like in this case, Arjun takes guidance from Krishna. Krishna is with himself. So this is how you become your best friend.
Also,
for example,
sir,
becoming enemy.
Person who has not conquered the self, so-called the lower self, the individual self, who doesn't have control, he behaves like enemy.
Yeah. So
now, this is
example would be of Duryodhan. He was always under the sway of Shakuni. Somebody like who cannot control himself and also who seeks guidance from people who have no control over themselves. So one is to have control on yourself, and if you can't, then you have to seek guidance over sensible people, from sensible. But the point is, खुद ही करना पड़ेगा. Nobody else can do this for us.
Incidentally, the Hindi word for swasthya, health is swasthya, which is nothing. Swayam mein sthit hona.
Yeah.
Swasthya.
Yeah. Swa is a self. The whole thing is being with yourself, being in yourself.
Yes.
So the moment you go away from yourself, that is when the problem starts.
Mhm.
So I think if we go on practicing this self, then the clarity would come, and then the path opens up. The first point is that I have to have that kind of an initiative, that I have to improve myself. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen.
Yes.
So the first step, I have to do it myself. This is what Dr. Saab also used to say. He said, "But नहीं करेंगे, सिर्फ पढ़ेंगे तो कुछ नहीं होगा. खुद के ऊपर करना है." That was the eternal thing. Effort करना है खुद के ऊपर. You start walking on the path, and then the help. You take one step, and God will take the 100 steps towards you.
Bhupan sir wanted to say something, I think. Yes.
But he's on mute.
Ah.
He's on.
I was raising my finger to attract your attention.
Okay.
But it's
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so it.
So what I found was, that particular verse which we had studied earlier, Prakritim Yanti Bhutani, that has been of some lot of help, in the sense, when I expect the other person to behave in a certain way,
Yeah.
and that person doesn't behave that way, so then I am troubled, and then I get agitated, and then it harms me. So when I harm myself, I become my own enemy.
That's
True.
good. Yeah.
Whereas if I say that fine, he is going to behave in that way, it's okay. I have to decide what I am going to do,
Yeah.
and it's okay. It's okay if he behaves that way. So then I don't harm myself. I am my mind is not agitated.
Yeah.
So in that case, I become my own friend. That is the
Yeah.
way I have observed in the last few weeks.
Correct.
So it's very true, because yourself, we always have to remember it's about my self development, self. So who has to work on oneself? We have to work on our own self. So I think this verse is clear. Mahendra Bhai, this verse is
Yeah.
clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next verse, please.
Yeah.
Jitatmanah.
जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः.
Yeah. So it says Supreme Spirit is rooted in the knowledge of the self-controlled man, whose mind is perfectly serene in the midst of pairs of opposites, such as cold and heat, joy and sorrow, and honor and ignominy. So when you have conquered yourself, then all these external opposites, external situations don't affect you. So in a way, we can also make a firm decision that no matter what, I will be steady, mentally steady. The external can go on changing, but internally, I will remain steady. This is the thing, that when I have conquered myself, I automatically become, but I can start the other way. In a day, I can tell myself every morning, I can remind myself that no matter what happens today, I will be steady. I will not let anything external create a fluctuation in my mind. And if it does, I won't come under its sway. So if we make this kind of a firm decision, the word is samahita. If I make a decision to remain balanced, to remain samahita in all situations, then maybe some progress can happen. So the life is going to test me. The external situations are going to change. But how steady am I going to be is the question. Am I going to be my bandhu, or am I going to be my Shatru? So, any thoughts, or we can go on?
I also find that this is something that actually, with a degree of internalization, like the way what I try and use, let's say, is to watch my breath as a way
Yeah.
of internalizing.
True.
And when in that, when in a particular frame of being, when I am to little bit watch my breath, automatically that one of the sayings in the institute under those posters, one of the saying was, a relaxed throws a distance between itself and the stressful situation. So it is something that happens, on its own. It's spontaneous in that, just that when I am myself, or I am with myself, whichever way you call it, then automatically you're able to, I think, view it slightly more objectively, with less identification. I think everything about the external situation, only the way with which you identify with it. Right. So being internalized means your identification gets broken or reduces a little bit, and to that degree, then you don't get ruffled and are able to remain calm. I mean, that's
True.
my little experience.
Yeah, that's a good technique. Yeah, breath.
The poster you mentioned?
Sir, in the museum at the Yoga Institute, there are these very large posters, maybe 4 feet by 2 feet, each one demonstrating a particular asana or a practice. And so there's a photograph or 2 photographs, and then there is a detailed instructions. Then there is, indications, limitations, and then at the very bottom, a small little line in in a in a little box, which has different messages. So one of those that stuck with me was this one: that a relaxed mind throws a distance between itself and the stressful situation.
So I may have this. I'll send it across if I find it. I don't promise, but if I may have this poster. Okay, so shall we go on to the next one?
Yes, we can proceed.
Yeah. Jnana Vigyan Truptatma.
ज्ञान विज्ञान तृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः.
So it says the yogi whose mind is sated with jnana and vignan, who is unmoved under any circumstances, whose senses are completely under control, and to whom earth, stone, and gold are all alike, is spoken of as a God-realized soul. Now the first question: can we treat a stone and gold alike? Okay, so is that practical in our day-to-day life?
To a small degree, yes. I'll tell you how. No, I can't tell how, but I mean, I can only share a perspective. I think here again we have to remember the practical aspect and the existential aspect. Right? When dealing with the world at large, neither are we able nor is it wise to treat this things as equal, because that's a transactional kind of engagement, and you have to go by the rules of the game. Right? But what's important is that when you at another level of awareness or at another level of understanding, you realize that at the end of the day, these are all a part of the same external prapanch, right? And that has, whatever be those facets, whatever be that part, that has a limited utility in my growth and in my joy and my happiness, which essentially comes from being with myself. True. Then those differentiations relatively begin to lose value, or they loosen their hold on you.
true. Very true. Yeah. Yeah. There are many things in this verse which we can refer. One is that kutastha, being unshaken, unchanging, undisturbed amidst opposite situations. And then again, Gyan Vijnana Triptatma. So a person who is able to follow these concepts or who's able to follow these teachings, the Jnana becomes Vijnana. Knowledge becomes wisdom.
Mm. Mm.
When you practice, it becomes wisdom. And then you remain unchanging. And then the senses lose their control over you. And then you're able to treat everything in the material world as a manifestation of the real. Like it's just a manifestation. And you treat it in that way. Nothing is different for you. Everything comes from real. So everything is kind of same. Yes, for the external world for living in the external world, it becomes important. But then the example of King Janak is given when his palace catches fire. He says, okay, there are people to handle it. I don't need to get perturbed. So there is a very oft quoted story we had heard at the institute about a man who had come for the 7-day camp, and he was a very rich businessman, and of course he became rich also by evading taxes, and he had acquired a lot of wealth. So when he had come for the camp, it's a true story, when he heard all the yams, the niyams, and he heard all the teachings of yoga, he actually went back home and he told his wife that I don't want to live this kind of a life. He had grown up sons also. And he told his sons, see, I have amassed enough wealth, but I don't want it anymore. Are you ready to be on your own? So the children said, okay, if this is what you wish, you may do it. You go ahead with your life. He asked his wife, and she says, it's okay. I live as per the means we get. I can live on anything. So he actually went to the department and he said, I have evaded a lot of taxes, and here is my balance sheet. And from now onwards, I don't want to do this, but whatever, the past mistakes or arrears I've had, you can take it. So they took his house and they took all his health and his cars and everything. So he was left with nothing. So now this man started a lot of other businesses, but in every business he found that he can't be so honest. So he started buying postage stamps, and he started selling them at a very measly profit. And he had just enough to eat, and he lived on that. He was anyway, elderly gentleman, but this is how he decided that he would live his life. And very often we were given this example that it can happen. It's not that everybody can, just go to the, turn a new leaf and give up everything and become a yogi or a sannyasi. But it is possible. At least internally, if we start detaching, if something is lost, or if we go through a rough situation, if we can handle those situations with a balanced mind, then that itself is progress. So we just have to check ourselves in these difficult situations, whether we are able to keep the mind in a balanced state, or whether we get too perturbed. Or at least if our reactions are not as violent and severe, or they are milder than before, then also it's a sign of progress.
We have heard a word, objectivity.
Yes.
Does it do anything with this slogan?
Yes. Objectivity, that you watch things at distance. This is what we just shared in the previous shloka about relaxation. A relaxed mind creates a distance between the stressful situation and oneself. Yes, definitely. The objectivity is here. Because the word is Gyan Vijnana Tripta. When that knowledge, when you have practiced, when it turns into wisdom, that wisdom doesn't leave you. It's there with you always. See, the information may come into your mind and disappear. But if it is an experiential thing, if it's wisdom, then it doesn't leave your mind. And if the wisdom is there, then obviously there is objective. Otherwise, it's mere information. I have studied, but at the right time, it doesn't come into my mind.
Yes. Basically, it is the mental state.
Yes.
Or otherwise, if it doesn't affect you,
Yeah.
we are in a better state.
Yeah. True. Very.
So that
Ashaji,
means- please.
Yes.
Please
Yes.
carry on.
Yes.
what this verse is pointing out is first is sense organs, that is Vijitendriya. Then it is talking about something deeper, that is the intellect, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. And then even after that, it is introducing this Kutastha.
Yes.
So, Vijitendriya, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma, yet you have to be Kutastha. So, what is this Kutastha?
I'll just get.
I'm saying that Vijitendriya is understood, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma is understood, but still the verse is saying that you have to be Kutastha. So, what is Kutastha?
Ashuji, you're on mute.
Okay. So the word means unshaken, unchanging,
Yes.
steady, undisturbed, at peace. It could be at peace, not changing, mentally not changing. Dr. Saab defined it as at peace, समझदार, जिसके अंदर समझ आ गई है. That's how he defined it. And the other translations are unshaken, unchanging, undisturbed. This, what does this Gita say? 6 point. It says, unmoved under any circumstance, unmoved. See, the external doesn't affect because you are so sthita in your own self that the outside situation doesn't. We've discussed this. People losing a family member and still remaining at peace and still carrying on with their job, still carrying on with their duty. The external doesn't affect you.
See, I think how this may happen, redefine your relationship with the external world. Over a period of time, through the senses, you engage with the world, and through that engagement, you have certain what we call as experiences. Those shape the way you view the world, which is basically the perspective. You treat several people as your own, my children, my wife, my this, my that. And over a period of time, you realize they're mine and yet not mine. They're individuals by themselves. So then, the slightly wiser perspective comes that fine, I have to do what I might do. In this manner, I think as we gain in wisdom, we realize that the world is the world. It has apna astitva, and main usse juda hu, in the sense I stand apart. And once that happens, or to the degree that begins to happen, to that degree, one gets less and less perturbed by whatever happens outside, knowing very much that it's happening, but it's not my full identity. So to that degree, one is able to remain, stationed within oneself, and to that degree, one doesn't get ruffled at what's happening. And likewise, one also doesn't get excited by the good things happening. I've discovered to my whatever that good things can be as disturbing as unpleasant things. Excitement could be as inimical as a kind of sukha. Both are, so far as the station in self is concerned, both are neutral.
True.
And it's more difficult to get rid of excitement. Dukh, in a way, is a very useful thing. It helps one to reflect and actually find answers. So therefore, you try and go within. Sukh mein to you feel everything is going well. I mean, कौन सी आत्मा कौन सी परमात्मा अभी अच्छा चल रहा है ना.
True.
So
This whole chapter is called Dhyan Yoga, or the yoga of meditation. So these words are very, we will understand them as we move on, because he's going to teach us the technique of meditation. And then what do you do in meditation? You keep the mind steady. The mind can't move. It's fixed on one object. We can take this word in that sense also, that it is fixed on one particular object, or one particular tattva, or one, whatever you may call it. The dhyan is on one thing. It's unchanging, it's undisturbed, it's full of faith, it's fixed. So this word will become very clear. We go on to the other verses in this, and what Sunilji just said about excitement disturbing the mind, all that is going to come as in yukta ahar, yukta yukta cheta, moderation in everything, in food, in work, in sleep, in recreation. So then we will understand this whole. What I feel is that when we do these chapters, we have to see the chapter as a whole, and the words are very apt for that chapter. This is talking about meditation, so no matter what.
Ashaji, the reason why I'm asking this question is because Kut, as by itself, means secret or mystery. So when the Gitakar is writing this word, there must be something behind this choice of the word.
Yes.
He's talking because Kuta means secret or mystery. So Kutastha means you are staying in that part of your being which is a mystery.
Yes.
Or which is as we say, the heart of the heart. So I don't know what it has. There is a certain significance to this word. That's what I thought.
Very good.
That is a beautiful significance, sir.
I also didn't know about this secret thing, but beautiful. I'll write it down. So how you can unravel the secret or the mystery of life is explained in this chapter. Yeah, makes sense. So then we can do 6.9.
Yeah.
Surun mitraryudasinam madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate.
Okay. He who looks upon well-wishers, friends and foes, neutrals as well as mediators, infidels, relatives, and the virtuous and sinful with equanimity stands supreme. So this will happen if you are fixed at a higher goal, or this can be consciously brought about. Now, I say this can be consciously brought about because I have had a lot of these discussions with a friend who lives in another developed country, not in India. But when she migrated, she said how we look down upon the staff who help us at home. About, in India, how we look down upon people who are not economically so well to do. She said over there is dignity of labor, and these kind of differences don't come. We don't talk to people in a way which is demeaning. We talk to everybody in the same way. And she said there are so many of us Indians over there who work at petrol stations or in bakeries or in so many kinds of different jobs which we would look down upon in India. But she said over there we don't see those kind of differences. So it can be brought about, and it can come on its own when your mind is fixed at a higher goal. When that wisdom comes, when that knowledge becomes wisdom. Yeah, so this is my thought about this. Any other thoughts? We can move on.
It's a very important shloka,
Yeah.
particularly for those who are handling in the HR affairs.
Yes. True.
The previous one is a handling goods, and this sutra is dealing with the persons.
Yeah. True.
The person is termed as supreme, who's handling friends and foes alike. It's a very important, and I think in practical life, if one maintains this,
Yeah.
He would definitely be a different person.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what I said. It can be brought about. It can be brought about with practice. If you
Yes.
start respecting another person, especially, you can do it anywhere, in a home, in an office,
Everywhere. Yes.
everywhere. When you're traveling in a train, in a bus, in a car, on the road, just treat everybody with respect. And
Yes.
so, quick to point out a fault on the road also. If somebody is driving in a particular way, we are so quick to react. So if these reactions can stop, and if we look upon everybody as growing, or everybody is we are growing with everybody, or we can help other people to grow, overlook their mistakes, overlook their errors. A lot can be said in this verse. We can
Yes.
his thoughts. Yeah.
The well-wishers, friends,
Yeah.
foes, neutral, mediators, inimicals, relatives, the virtuous and the sinful.
Sinful. Yeah.
And the term is equanimity again.
Equanimity.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very, very good shloka.
Sama buddhi. Yeah. Very true. We can start. Yeah. Okay. So any other thoughts?
Yeah, just one more little thing. See, to the extent that you're able to see into yourself, extent you can actually see into others.
Correct.
So, the more deep you are, the more stationed in the self you are, the
Yeah.
more deeply you can look into the other. And as we go deep, you see the surface differences start to melt.
True.
Only, we move towards unity, oneness
Yeah.
of all things. So,
Yeah.
therefore, automatically, when we are able to see at one's best, when we are able to see divinity in the other person, then where is the question of disrespect or judgment? Then we only see that that's the core. So we respect it anyways.
Yeah. True. Very true. So shall we move on?
Yeah, we can move.
योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निराशीर अपरिग्रहः.
Living in seclusion all by himself, the yogi who has controlled his mind and body and is free from desires and void of possessions should constantly engage his mind in meditation. So when a yogi who has practiced this, to whom gold and earth are the same, to whom all the people around him are same, now he should practice meditation. So we are coming to the technique of meditation. He anyway becomes more and more internalized. When he says ekaki yata chitatma, that he anyway becomes internalized. He is more to himself. So shall we read the next verses?
Yes.
Sir, you're on mute, sir. You're on mute, sir.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनम् आत्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिन कुशोत्तरम्.
Yeah. So he says, have firmly set his seat in a spot which is free from dirt and other impurities, with the sacred kosha grass, a deer skin, and a cloth spread thereon, one upon the other, kusha below, deer skin in the middle, and cloth uppermost, neither very high nor very low. So now, how to sit for meditation. So we have heard all this in the Hatha Pradipika also, that the place has to be clean and it should not be too high, it should not be too low, and it should not be cold, it should be damp, there should be, the seat should be proper so that the mind is not disturbed. Once you are in a comfortable place, then the mind is free to meditate. So these are the external parts of the seat. So I don't know if we need to discuss these.
No.
But one thing we need to just be very clear on this. He says, sthira, the sthiraman, the sthiram asam, that is asanam, that is very important. One has to be steady. Now, it is steady of the body, but in the next verse, now he says that the steadiness of the mind. So we'll read the next verse.
तत्र एकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यत चित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये.
Yeah. And occupying that seat, concentrating the mind and controlling the functions of the mind and senses, he should practice yoga for self-purification. So, tatre ekagram mana, that is important. Now, the seat is firm, but the mind also has to be firm. So, Vinoba Bhave puts it very nicely. He says you are stopping the external wheels. The internal wheel has to be stopped. The internal wheel is the mind. The mind has to be focused on one particular object. When the mind is focused, obviously the senses are always under the mind is the master of the senses will be under control. And what is the goal of meditation? That he gets closer to the higher self, that he goes on purifying his self. So, okay, we don't need to explain this more.
Proceed.
समङ्काय शिरोग्रीवं धारयन् अचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चान् अवलोकयन्.
Yeah. So it says holding the trunk, head and neck straight and steady, remaining firm and fixing the gaze on the tip of the nose without looking in any other direction. Then the standard instructions of a meditative pose where your head, neck and spine is in a straight line and your eyes are either closed or they are fixed in the space between the eyebrows or on the tip of the nose. On the tip of the nose is the eyes are half open, like slightly open. They are fixed. So they are lower. So they're not distracted. They don't move around in different directions. And also it means that you don't go to sleep because your eyes are slightly open and fixed on the tip of the nose. So these are the instructions for the posture. So the most thing will come in the verse. So shall I read the next verse?
Yeah. Prashantatma vigatadhir brahmachari vrate sthitaha manas sanyamya machitto yukta asita matparaha.
Firm the vow of complete chastity and fearless, keeping himself perfectly calm and with the mind held in restraint and fixed on me, the vigilant yogi should sit absorbed in me. So now the qualities of the mind. The external thing has been given. We can all assume a pose. We can have a mat, and we can keep um, the spinal column straight, and we can close our eyes, and all that is fine. All that is important. We are not running down the technique. That is important. But what is most important is that the mind has to be serene. The brahmacharya has to be practiced. Now, these are all weaknesses of the mind. If all these are conquered, then one has progressed. So, what should the yogi do after sitting in that posture? He should be fearless and he should be firm in the vow of brahmacharya. So, all his senses have to be under control. His mind is under control. And what should he think of? He should think only of the highest, of the self, of whatever you say, of God, of the highest object, of the highest goal. So just forcing oneself to sit in a posture will not work. The mental fixation is most important. So what are our thoughts on this?
The word sanyam, sanyam.
Yeah.
What is the correct understanding of this term, sanyam?
Discipline.
Because we have been discussing this in different contexts. Does it mean strict control, or does it mean loving direction, or does it mean both from time to time?
That firmness is important. It's a discipline. In the next few verses, he will talk more about discipline. It would be also forcefully stopping the inner wheel, like I said before. Yes, it would be some kind of a discipline, some kind of a force is definitely required or implicated here. It's like a child. You have to use some kind of a firmness and some kind of a force. Like a policeman also can't be dilly-dallying. He can't be emotional. It is definitely a force. A force with understanding. A force which is not like a force, okay, not like out of power or because I am superior to you, that you just have to do it. I'm just talking about an external thing. But a force which is based on reason. When I tell myself, yes, this is the right thing and I have to do it, I must do it, where I use the force based on reason. Sorry, Sri Ramakrishna says, he says this Kamini and Kanchan, he's brought about these two things. Okay, gold and woman, or gold and, the lustful kind of a desire. And then he also says that if you're pushed into the water or you jump on your own, you will still get wet. So spirituality is something where either obey a guru, either you obey a teacher and you follow, or you do it on your own. But the thing is that Sanyam, sorry, Sir Mahendra, so you were saying something?
No, I was saying that Sanyam is a kind of a balanced response, I think. Even in ordinary interactions, when there is a provocation, कहा जाता है, अरे संयम बरतें, संयम रखें, right? That is to don't respond, forcefully or in a unbalanced manner. That view the situation objectively and respond in a measured kind of manner is the way that when at least I have learnt to use the word Sanyam. In another context, or rather in another perspective, is Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, Sanyam. That is the whole cycle of achieving something. I mean, whether it be the highest or whether it be a mundane. Sir, in chapter 7, Engage, Individual Excellence, the process that we have defined, the 4-stage process, is nothing but actually, the 4th stage is Sanyam, the achievement. So, to my mind, I think, going by what we have discussed, a balanced, a measured response, or a measured kind of outlook, a regulated outlook. We may even say discipline, but I would say measured is, to my mind, a better descriptor.
In this particular context, manas sanyamya. So there are thoughts which come into the mind. So one way is to tell the mind that no, you should not think this way. Don't let any thought come into your mind. And another way is to let the thought come, observe, and let it go. And slowly, with this process, thoughts will not arise. So, manas sanyamya has to be understood in which particular sense? Because the Buddhist would use the second approach, that is mindfulness. Whereas here we are talking about ekagra, that means concentration. So concentration to my mind is slightly different from mindfulness, because mindfulness is more of attention, constant attention, whereas ekagra means one-pointed attention. Concentration would mean one-pointed, single-pointed. So that would mean exercising a more direct control on the mind.
See, when we say mindfulness or when we say awareness of what? When you are allowing the thoughts to come, that's okay, let them come. But where is the mind? So that's a very important question. Where will the mind be when you sit down in meditation and you allow the thoughts to come and you just observe them? But where is your mind?
That's correct. Very rightly pointed out, Ashaji.
Observing.
We are in the stage of technique only.
Mind is observing.
Mind is observing. The mind can get swayed. See, in the observation, the mind can get swayed. The mind has to be fixed on something. There has to be a higher voice. The mind gets swayed when you're observing.
Yes.
I hear the sounds. I can, hear some music or some pleasant thought can come in my mind and I can run away with it. Till the mind is not fixed. He's saying over here, Machitto yukta asita matapara. Asita means you're sitting fixed. And where's your chitta? Matapara. Para means what? The supreme goal. My mind has to be on that goal, and then only I can observe. I can observe, let them come and go. Like if I'm sitting at the window and I'm just observing the traffic, or I'm observing everything around me, but my mind is on something. I have to get up within a certain amount of time. I have other duties to do. I have a goal in life. I can't just sit and observe. I can't while away my time. But it's okay, the initial thing. You see, this kind of meditation, I'm not against it. But I'm saying this kind of meditation where you're just sitting and doing nothing, you should have some purpose, right? And how much time are you going to just sit there and do it? We are all householders.
Yeah, it's a graded direction has been given, particularly in this shloka. Is a direction, is a technique. Vow of complete chastity, fearless, keep himself perfectly calm, mind and restraint, and fixed on me, the vigilant. There's so many directions. And the last but not the least is should sit absorbed. You have to be dissolved that. Now that state has to come. When we talk in the sutras, chapter 3, that's talking about siddhis, is using the word sanyam. I think that grade has not been, gravity is not here. That is talking about a state of where the dharana, dhyan, and samadhi also merge. Trayam ekatra sanyama. That's a very high degree when the samadhi is also included. So if this particular shloka, I think, is not taking us to that side, but of course it's a step towards that. It's a step towards that you have to be absorbed. Self is something which not only be one technique, another technique, third technique, fourth technique, absorb. Absorb is a different word. You have to dissolve into it. Now, the stage should come. So now is a graded stage of meditation. There are different ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go absorb. Now, I think this is talking about, when it's talking about asit, asatam, asat is a Sanskrit word. You sit down. Now, this sitting is talking about mentally, that chitta should sit. It's not the body and this and that. That chitta state, including all, that should sit. Asit. Asit is talking about the chitta, and chitta includes the body, mind, also everything. Now, here one has to be absorbed. And of course, when we come to the chapter 3 of the sutra, we'll see that what is, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, trayam ekatra. When these all come together, there comes the sanyama state, trayam ekatra samyama. So this is a lesser degree and perhaps a step towards that. That's why I interpret it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's very true. But see, in the we're talking about for a common householder, they're using the ladder of work. The purpose, yes. Why am I working? Why? I have to do my swadharma. That's why I think it's not elaborating like it is elaborating in the Yoga Sutra. So here, yeah, but sir, that was excellent. So maybe we can go on to the next verse.
युञ्जन् एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थाम् अधिगच्छति.
So 6.15. Thus, constantly applying his mind to me, the yogi of disciplined mind attains everlasting peace, consisting of supreme bliss, which abides in me. So again, controlling the mind. Now, what does this balance? When you control the mind, it leads to a balanced state. The mind remains balanced. It's controlled. It doesn't move. When it doesn't move, the peace comes in. And when peace comes in, what happens? It leads to realization of God. So the same thing. Sorry, too much of disturbance. So the entire idea is caught up here. So the mind is controlled, and then there is peace, and that peace leads you to the highest state or to freedom. Okay. So the first thing is controlling the mind, fixing the mind on one thing, disciplining it, controlling it. Slowly the peace will come. In that peace, the understanding comes, and then there is the final freedom, nirvana. So
नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तम् अनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
Arjun, this yoga is neither for him who overeats, nor for him who observes complete fast. It is neither for him who is given to too much sleep, and not even for him who ceaselessly awake. So there are certain rules of following this meditation. The rules are you can't overeat, you can't undereat, and you can't sleep too much, and you can't be ceaselessly awake. And then there are some more rules. So we'll do the two verses together.
युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
Yoga, which rids one of woe, is accomplished only by him who is regulated in recreation, regulated in performing actions, and regulated in sleep and wakefulness. So the word regulated, moderate, or setting bounds to one's life. See, I would just go by Vinoba Bhave's explanation, where he says that a river moves within the bounds of the banks. There are two banks of the rivers, and that's why the river is able to flow. If you remove the banks, then what happens? The river moves in all directions. So these kind of yukta ahar vihar, these ahar vihar achar vichar, they are like boundaries. They are like the banks of a human being, of a human life. And when we live within these boundaries, then we are able to flow. Our energies are able to go in one direction. We can't overeat, undereat, work too much, not work too much. We can't live that kind of an indisciplined life. Then all our energies will be dissipated, and we will never reach our goal. We will be moving in all kinds of directions. So yes, we can discuss this, whether this is so easy. Setting up a routine for oneself, having meals at proper timings, and eating the right kind of food, not overeating, how much to eat, when to eat, what to eat, how much to work. If we follow a timetable, if we follow a particular schedule, then it really becomes easy. Then there is so much time for self-development, for reading, for reflecting, for discussing, for doing the right thing.
Very true.
So these are things which we have to reflect upon and actually practice. So maybe we can share our thoughts on this, whether we are able to do it, whether we get carried away and we work too much, whether we sleep too little, or whether we have no time for recreation. What are the difficulties in forming a routine, or whether we have a good routine. Maybe we can share our routines. We have a little time.
So,
Why all are muted?
Except Shabir Bhai.
I muted myself so that somebody would share. Sabir,
No, in fact, I am enjoying it so much. You know, there is lot of reflection. I'm just closing my eyes and hearing Mahendra sir, Asha madam, and everyone giving their things. And it is like a meditation for me. We are into that Dhyana Yoga chapter, but listening to these instructions and comments, it is like a meditation for me. You may say mindfulness, you may say concentration, or you may say absorption also now. It is like, you know, culmination of all the three making Sanyama happening for me here itself. The integration is taking so nicely. In fact, I don't want to do anything else but just keep my eyes closed and be listening to all these things.
yeah, that's how I feel in your class.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lost his voice.
So then this subject has its rules. Yes, like I said, the rules are there. Not eating too much, not under eating. So I'm just repeating myself. Anybody wants to share?
yeah, so for 20 years, I've had this struggle with the routine. Right. So, like I said, like Sabir Bhai, I also have, I'm Pitta dominant. And so when I get into a project and then I burn myself, and by then, recreation is expended with and sleep is expended with and everything. And then I then get unwell or something and then I come back. So I remember 2 years back, there was a serious episode of this. So we went over to the mountains to a resort, and it's a kind of Ayurvedic resort. So so there was a doctor, the treating doctor there. So so I said, no, done. I've done my work, most, the preparation of the book, etc. Now nothing will happen. He said, no, don't fool yourself. The Pitta types are like that. There's one project, they will burn themselves into it and then recover a while and then immediately start another project and operate absolutely the same way, forgetting everything. So I'm not any wiser in 20 years, really speaking, except that I can see my follies, but I'm still powerless to to be able to check them.
That is where the Vignan comes into.
Ah,
See, you are getting the wisdom where you need to get into the right things. So Jnana Vignan is happening, Sunil bhai.
आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर साबिर भाई देखते हैं.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, becoming aware of it is obviously the first step. And even now, you see, for 3 months, almost 3 months now, Aarti's been saying कि अब every time she says, "अबे कब खत्म हो गए maintenance project?" तो ऐसे हाँ बस अभी 2 दिन में अच्छा, अब तो ये तो दिल्ली वालों की तरह हो गया. ये 2 दिन कभी खत्म ही नहीं होते. So finally ऐसे देखो अब ये हो गए, दिवाली की तैयारी में अब ये खत्म हो गया. And I've promised to myself also, भाई चलो अब तो ये वैसे भी अपना I've not been engaging as deeply as I would like to in terms of background study of the texts alongside our class. So मैं करूंगा. But I'm at the same time, a part of me is also saying, okay, now this fellow, what is the other thing he launches himself into?
Very true.
But on the other hand, I've also seen that see, the mind, of course, is all chanchal and it wants to variety, but the body is so comfortable with the routine. It wants predictability because after all these bioprocesses have their own clock. And if you don't allow the body to follow that clock, it's violence to the body actually.
True.
And it's really avoidable.
Yeah, very true. So all have to become fanatic. That we have to be, रेल की पटरी की जैसे we have to follow a particular thing. वैसे भी नहीं करना है. So rules तो होने चाहिए, but sometimes अगर change करना है तो वो भी ठीक. Both the sides of the coin. Initially, rules yes, and after the rules are set, then maybe we can change as per the situation demanding. Not to become fanatic. Yes, so these are good verses to reflect on, and they have to be followed practically.
So, Ashaji, when I was working,
Yes,
that is about 25 years ago in the institute,
right.
I used to follow a routine, but
Yeah.
it was a totally unhealthy routine
Okay.
in the sense that I would start work at 10 o'clock and have lunch at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So the breakfast was at 9:30 and lunch used to be at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then I would come home from the office at 9 o'clock. Because office and institute were in the same premises.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was only 2 minutes walk.
Okay.
And then sleep at 11. And then, so this was a very, very unhealthy routine which I was following.
Yeah.
But I would do exercises regularly.
Yeah.
And at that time, I used to also smoke regularly.
Acha.
So between 10 and 4,
हाँ.
there would be only tea and cigarette. So that affected my health very badly.
Yeah.
And I used to think, because I'm doing exercises,
Yeah.
nothing should happen to me.
Yeah.
But I lost weight, and then I realized that I have to change this.
Yeah.
So then I took a break of 7 days and completely, completely removed myself. And I went to a village and I stayed in that village. And there the routine was slightly different, but because it was a natural surrounding and there was a fresh air, it helped me revive. And then when I came back, then I decided to quit smoking and improve. So it took me some time, but I finally quit smoking. And then I could regain health. But so there was a routine and I understood everything, but I was not able to follow the routine because I had this idea in my mind that I have to be working all the time and I have to achieve success. So that notion of success, which I was carrying in my head, led to I myself harming myself. So when you said, in the earlier shloka, we were talking about my own enemy. So I had become my own enemy.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So you became your own bandhu now. And you understood that the definition of success is having a peaceful mind and a healthy body. Those are our assets which can take us further in life. So it's not that we don't go through these steps. We all go through this. I have also indulged a lot in overworking at the institute. I worked so hard, slept so late. But then one day, it doesn't help. In the long run, it spoils your health. And so one day, Dr. Saab said that first thing, do what is necessary. So first thing in the morning, get up and do your exercises. Everything else can wait. So one thing which has really helped me sticking, by in this routine is I can just drop everything. If this is, I have set this time schedule around myself. At 8 o'clock, I have to eat my breakfast. I can drop everything under the sun. I will sit on the table and eat. At so much time, I have to eat my lunch. Everything can wait. I will eat it. So this kind of setting bounds to your life, like Vinoba says, setting bounds. So I set my own boundaries. I have to do. Go out. I don't go out for the movies and all, but I'm just saying that if I have to go out, I will say no. We can go at this time. After I finish my lunch, we can go out at that time. Or if I have to go for a marriage, then I will finish my dinner. I will go at that time, unless it's a family wedding. So there are things which we can work on ourselves and set up routines or set up boundaries to our life. For example, not eating at night, eating at a wedding or I don't go out for late night dinners, but for a wedding, I never eat. Never. So I eat my dinner. I go anyway, when you're going for some kind of occasion, social occasion, you have to meet the host and come back. So it's my practice to go on the stage, wish the couple, take a U-turn and get back into my vehicle and come back home. I don't stay unless it's a family wedding. So there are certain things which I practice and which this is my personal sharing. All of us can share, how they have set boundaries to their life.
So that one, I just remember one instance. So this was in Wipro is in Bangalore, and our office used to be exactly the floor under Mr. Premji's office, right? So one New Year's Eve, it so happened that he was coming down, and I also took the elevator from my. We were the only two people in the elevator, and he's a very, very, kind of down to earth kind of man. So he says, "So how are you doing the New Year's this time?" Yeah, so it's and he said something. I said, "Yeah, पता नहीं कहाँ जाना है? Some place we have to go or something." And he made an effect to कि भाई वो late बहुत हो जाता है आजकल ना. I said, "Sir, हम तो अपना खाना खा के जाते हैं." He looked at me a little quizzically. What a silly fellow. Anyway, by the time the basement came and we parted. So that is it. I think Dr. was so particular about the routine. I mean, of course, that's where we all picked it up. Shailesh Bhai was once time telling me that, here's this gentleman, very administratively, a very, very central figure in the institute. So he's saying he would be working, and sometimes it would be, almost near 8 o'clock, and the lights will still be on, it will be on the table. So Dr. Saab would just come and stand there. And of course, when your Dr. Saab is standing, you have to. तो शरीफ भाई said वो नहीं अब बस बंद कर दीजिए, नहीं बड़ा अर्जेंट काम है, नहीं कोई बात नहीं, कल हो जाएगा, अभी आप बस हो गया, अब कल ही करेंगे. So he said, "Bas, that's where we all picked it up from. His focus on a routine or on regulation was very, very intense."
So he also said that initially you form the rules, but later on use your common sense. If you have to change them, do change them. So not to be fanatic, not to be a fanatic. So we have just 2 minutes. Since we have 2 minutes, we'll not begin the other shloka. But since we are on this topic, I'll just share something on Dr. Saab. He would never put on the fan, never. Whether it was hot or, of course, cold, not. But in Bombay, we do have a lot of heat in the months of May and October. It's really hot. So Shailesh Bhai's example only, he would come outside. Once or twice, Shailesh Bhai had come from outside, and Dr. Saab, he was sitting in front of him. Then Dr. Saab tell him कि आपको गर्मी लग रही है तो फैन का बटन चालू कर दीजिए. So he would say नहीं मैं ठीक हूँ. So then Dr. Saab would get up, switch on the button, switch on the fan, and then he would have a conversation. Then maybe after 10-15 minutes, he would put it off. So he was, kind of compassionate to another person, to the needs of another person who had come outside and who was used to sitting under the fan. So that can't be fanatics. Like he himself would say, don't do your asanas under the fan. But in a class, you can't help it because people want the fans on. They can't just sit like this. People want to do yoga asanas in an AC, in an air-conditioned room. So he would say, okay, let it be. Let each be as he or she wants to be. Don't force your ideas on other people. So routines are for ourselves. So when we try to be very strict with ourselves and we try to become fanatics, then the people around us get disturbed. So in that context, if you're alone and if you can manage very well, if you have to be in society, if you have to adjust, then that is also important. Okay, so I guess we end today's session and we'll begin from 6.18 next time.
Right.
Okay.
Sabir Bhai, I may be just 5 minutes late in joining the session. I'm sorry about it. Please go ahead on the.
Should we start at
Please,
that time?
please.
Okay.
No, I am just anybody else. You don't need to wait for me.
Yeah.
I'll join just a few minutes late. Huh?
Namaste, Asha ji.
Apologies about that.
I need to be
Namaste.
only today. Next time I will be there.
Yeah.
So next Sunday is Diwali. Okay, I will be there for my class.
No, next Saturday is Diwali.
Sunday.